Hey everybody, it's your girl Planet Time on deck. I hope you guys are having a great day, afternoon, and or evening whenever you guys are seeing this. So thank you guys so much for tuning in with me. You guys already know I appreciate that, right? Okay, so question of the day. What would you guys do if you guys knew that you only had 3 days and your life would change forever? What would you do? Some people, would you get your affairs in order? Would you take care of all your bills, your debt, talk to your family? Would you get right with God? What would you do if you knew in 3 days your life would be changed forever? Well, today I share the very tragic story of a woman named Frida Farrell, who experienced unimaginable distress in just 3 days. If you guys want to hear the information that I put together to share with you all you guys got to do is stay tuned. Okay, guys, thank you guys so much for coming back. I really appreciate that. Without further ado, let's jump into this true crime story time. Okay, so this story takes place in London, England in the year 2005. A 23-year-old woman by the name of Frida Farrell, who was born on December the 27th, 1979, she was doing the best she could to survive in life, right? She had just recently moved to London from somewhere else. I'll put it in here. But she had just recently moved to London, and she was trying to make she was dealing with the financial situations where the ends got to meet. So she was trying to, better herself. She kind of wanted to get into a few different things like, some acting projects and so on and so forth, but she just really didn't have what she needed to kind of get going at the time, right? So Frida, she was a fitness instructor, and she didn't make a lot of money. Okay, at the time she had a boyfriend who was in the medical field in some capacity, and she had a child. Okay, so that was her life. And anybody who's a parent of a young child, older child, whatever the case may be, she had a younger child. But you know that, the daily hustle and bustle of what it takes, just to make sure all the bills are paid. You're constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul with your bills. And you're living and surviving, but you're always looking for something better. Her life was somewhat similar to that at that time. Okay, so one day, Frida goes to a restaurant, and it's on her lunch break, and she's just going through her phone, sifting through her phone, checking things out, right? Now, out of nowhere, a homeless man who appeared to be agitated, he comes into the restaurant that Frida was in. Now, when he gets in the restaurant, it was seemingly as if he was sent directly to her. Now, have you guys ever seen or been into a place before where I don't care if you're standing at a train station or something else like that, and then, you're in a cafe, and it's like, all the other people that a person would take before they get to you, they seem to pass all those other people and walk straight up to you. Okay, that's why I said it was seemingly as if this homeless guy was sent directly to Frida, because he walks in the restaurant, he goes directly up to her, and he was like, "Do you have $1?" And she looked up like, "What? I didn't expect to see anybody. I'm here on my phone getting ready to eat my lunch. I didn't expect to see anybody." And she was like, No, I'm sorry, I don't have $1." And he was like, "You don't have $1?" And then he goes back at her and he says, "Do you have any money?" And she's like, "Well, no, I don't have any money." So the homeless guy then escalates, and he proceeds to pick up a piece of half of her sandwich, and he bites it. He just eats it and starts laughing, looking at her in a very taunting way, okay? Now, Frida, at this point, she's completely uncomfortable. She's probably scared. She's likely scared. She's uncomfortable, and she doesn't know what to do. So she's just kind of watching the guy in disbelief, like, deer in the headlights, as if, what is this guy going to do next, right? So he's eating her sandwich. Now, a gentleman by the name of Peter, who's not sitting too far away from her when this happens, he turns around, he notices the altercation, and he stands up out of his seat. He doesn't make a whole big production. He just stands out of his seat, and he tells the guy, "That's enough, all right? That's enough." So the guy, he looks at him up and down as if to say, "Screw you." But the thing is, I guess he decides he doesn't want that fate of, kind of getting into it with the guy. So he just laughs, takes her sandwich, and walks out the restaurant, right? Okay. Wow, so that happens every day. Where? You know what I mean? So already a very unique encounter that Frida experienced on this day. So I guess she was thinking, who knows what she was thinking, but she, it was something probably like that was weird, or that was like bizarre, whatever, right? Okay, so the guy leaves the restaurant, and the guy, Peter, begins to make small talk with her. So he tells her, he jokes with her, and he says, I guess, can I have the other half of your sandwich? And the two kind of laugh, like, like, hey, you let him take it, you might as well let me have the other half. So they kind of laugh it off or whatever else. And then Peter, he pretends as if he's going to get his stuff to exit the restaurant. Now, if he would have, that would have been the best thing he could have done for Frida. But it wasn't, and that's why we have this true crime coming to you right now. So Peter, he turns back and he says, I generally don't do this, but how are you, right? And immediately Frida realizes that he's trying to pick her up, and she says, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. But I have a boyfriend, right? So Peter, as to retreat in his own way, he says, well, oh, no. I mean, you're beautiful, and I understand, and you should have a boyfriend. I would expect that. But I'm married. And he shows her his wedding ring, right? Now, ladies and gents at home, I don't want you guys to be fooled by people with wedding rings, because people wear wedding rings for all different reasons. Some people do that to lure you in, which is in the case of Peter, but we'll get into that in just a moment. So just because you see somebody, or they're telling you these things, it doesn't mean it's always true. Sometimes people say things for opportunity or to gain the advantage. Light up the comments if you guys know what I'm talking about, okay? So moving on with this story time. So he shows her his wedding ring, and she was like, oh, okay, of course, right? So then he says, well, can I ask you a question? And she's, sure, because now she feels a bit sheepish, the fact that she presumed that he was coming to, try to hit on her, and he's a whole married guy, right? Or so she thinks. So he's like, he sits down, he's like, I kind of, I just kind of helped you out, and I was just wondering, I'm a freelance photographer, and I'm late to do a photo shoot because I don't have, I just need to take a few pictures for my client. Would you be willing to help me out and to just, my client just wants pictures of an average, ordinary, everyday looking lady. Could you just help me out with that? So Frida, she immediately goes into retreat, and she's like, you know what? I'm not the best at pictures. I'm not really into pictures. I don't feel like it would be comfortable for me, blah, blah, blah. And so he was like, oh yeah, sure, of course, no big deal. So he's not pushy about it. He's not bossy. He's just acting generally, right? So when she was like, no, and he was like, yeah, I understand. He was like, it doesn't have to be professional photos. It can just be like just ordinary. We just really need headshots. It's no big deal. And she again says no. He's like, okay. So he gets up like he's going to leave again. And he's like, well, by the way, we do give out, it would only take like about half of your day and time, and, the pay is $7,000. But I understand if you really don't want to, do it. So then he tries to walk away, and she heard $7,000. She said, what did you say it was going to be, like a half a day of my time? Ladies and gentlemen, if it sounds too good to be true, take it from your girl Planet Ty, it's too good to be true. Okay, let me just put that out there. It's too good to be true, okay? And so she was like, well, he has her attention now. He has her attention, okay? Remember, I said she was robbing Peter to pay Paul with her bills. She wasn't in the best financial spot anyhow, right? So, anyways, he reiterates, yeah, well, it's just $7,000, and it won't take any time at all. So then he turns around, he picks out his business card, and he puts it on the table. He slides it across the table, and he's like, why don't you just go ahead and think about it, right? So she's like, well, no. She even though she really is thinking about it, she's still on the outward trying to put on this disposition as if, no, I don't want to think about it. Just take your business card. I think really because she didn't want to be tempted to call him, okay? But he slid his card a little closer to his side. Just think about it, and by the way, have a nice day. So he leaves the restaurant, right? Frida goes home, and she talks to her then boyfriend. And she was like, something weird happened today. And, she kind of explained the situation. I don't know if she really told him about the homeless guy situation, but in theory, let's say she did. But she definitely told him about Peter, and about Peter being a freelance photographer and him wanting to take some headshots, and it would give her the opportunity to make $7,000. Now, the boyfriend that she talked to at the time, he was just, his attitude toward it seemed very nonchalant. It seemed very, yeah, go for it. It was kind of nonchalant, like, he was into the conversation or whatever else, but it was to the point where I don't think he questioned the safety of his spouse. That should have been the first thing that he, I would think a person would think about. Who is this guy? Why is he coming up to you? Why do he want you to take pictures? Blah, blah, blah. The normal stuff, when you're in a long-term relationship that people may ask just to make sure their spouse is safe. I don't know that he took those precautions, but he seemed like he was very open to her not missing out on the opportunity. Now, let me say this. Both of their personalities at that time seemed very trusting. They just seemed very, very trusting on, like, if somebody can come up and say something to you, you're just going to believe it straight 100% without any questions. And you know what? I'm not saying that that's 100% what their case was. It just felt like that while looking into the story, while watching her movie, which I'll tell you guys about later. It just seemed like they had a very trusting, whimsical personality. Like they just took everything at face value without more forethought. So anyways, so he's like, yeah, go for it. Go for it, you know. Oh, she's like, yeah, I don't know, you know, I'm not sure, you know, I've never did modeling before, I'm not all that comfortable. And he was like, you're going to be great. You know, he was supportive in regards to telling her, you're going to be great, you're beautiful, don't worry about it, just give it a shot, and you know what, just take the headshots, and if you don't like it, then forget about it, right? So armed with this, Frida decides that she's going to reach out to Peter, right? Now, Peter's the dude she met in the restaurant, remember that. So she reaches out to Peter and she was like, yeah, so where did you say your studio was located again, right? So she goes to the studio. Now, when Frida gets to the studio, there's all kind of red flags screaming out at her. All kind of red flags, right? She gets to the studio. The studio is in a less than savory neighborhood, and it appears to be in rundown condition, not something typical that you would think that somebody may, you know, do some freelance work in. I don't know, I'm not a freelance photographer. So if you guys are, or you know someone who's a freelance photographer out there, ask them, do you think that that's the, you know, a rundown building, is that usually an appropriate place to do freelance work? I guess it depends on the type of footage you're looking for, because if you're trying to get footage of like an inner city or something else like that, then it would make sense. If you're looking for, you know, some kind of an urban approach, whatever else, that would make sense for freelance photographers. You guys light up the comments, let me know if you guys wouldn't. Excuse me. So anyways, so she gets there and she's apprehensive. She's looking around the building. She sees it just looks disheveled, and, you know, it looks uncomfortable, okay? Creepy even, okay? Creepy even. So she, you know, she gets there, she calls him, and he sees when she comes out that she doesn't look comfortable. But you know what? He was like, well, you know, he calls to some woman upstairs, and let's say her name is Chloe, I forget her name. But he calls to some woman upstairs and he's like, you know, can you come down, please? Because she's not sure. She's reconsidering. The woman says, well, I'm busy right now, but I'll be down in a minute, right? So red flag, the building's disheveled, number one. Number two red flag, there is, you know, there's somebody else upstairs who won't come down. A number three red flag to this was there was some guy who came out of the building, and this guy looked like a street dude who probably does drugs, okay? He looks like a street drug guy, okay, who does drugs, okay? So he comes out the building and he was like, oh, that guy right there, he's the engineer, or he's the editor engineer, or whatever he tries to introduce her. The guy, he nods his head and he kind of scuffles off real fast or whatever else. And the guy, like I said, he looks creepy, okay? The guy clearly was no engineer. It looks like, you know, you can catch that guy any day of the week in the back of the dumpster or something like that. But he says, oh, he's an engineer, you know, and she looked at him like, really? So anyhow, everything in her signs, her intuition, they were screaming at her from inside, don't go in that building. Don't go in that building, right? You know what Frida does? She goes right off in that building. She goes in that building with the guy, Peter, okay? This would be one of the biggest mistakes of Frida's life. So when they get to the top of the building, when they get in the elevator, they go up. The ride is smooth and quiet. They open the door, and they open the door to his studio, but his studio is his apartment. This is his home, you guys. His home. Now, in his home, there's a lady in there, like I said, who we'll call Chloe. Now, Chloe is a younger lady like Frida. They're in the same age range. You can clearly tell that. But Chloe is very open, inviting. She seems warm. She seems friendly. She seems like the kind of person who you would love to welcome you into an environment, right? She's open. She's engaging. She's like, hi, as if they're like instant besties or whatever. And Frida, she gets excited by that energy. Like, yes, I love that. I'm here for this, right? And so she's like, hi. And she's like, do you need anything? You know, who, take your coat off, put your stuff right here. The ladies' bathroom is down here. You know, if you need anything, let me know. Do you want me to get you a coffee or anything? You just let me know whatever you need and I got you. And she was like, we're going to have so much fun with this session. You know, like her energy is like on 10, right? She has the kind of energy that will make your energy level just go up. You'll be ready. Okay, I'm here for it, right? Okay, so goes in the bathroom. She looks at herself in the mirror. She pumps herself up and gives herself the courage to kind of come out and be with it. And so she comes out. She takes her coat off. She's feeling all good, high-spirited. She's vibing off Chloe's energy. And so Peter begins taking pictures of her. And he was taking pictures of her before she even had her coat off. He was just taking all these face shots. He was like, take your coat off. She took her coat off. And he took some more pictures. She's just going by taking pictures, right? I don't know if you guys can hear that in my background, but somebody seems like they are mowing some lawn or something like that. I'm going to try to talk over it. So anyways, he's taking pictures. And then she had like a sweater on up under her coat. And so he was like, yeah, take that one off too. She was like, okay, because she thought she was there to take headshots, but she was like, okay. So she's taking pictures, and she sees Chloe, to the side looking at her, just like, or whatever else. So she's taking her pictures, and he was like, oh, yeah, you have such great hair. Your skin is perfect. He gets in close on her. He's like this. He's like, your skin is perfect. And he was like, yeah, play with your hair. And she was like, okay. And she kind of like plays with her hair a bit or whatever else. And so this guy at this point, he is being, he's not being overbearing. He's not being touchy, but it's clear to me that he has some sort of attraction towards Frida. Okay, I'm gonna put it like that. So he goes, fast forward, that shoot is over. She feels great. He feels, the experience was fine. It was not what she expected. She got through her nervous parts and she was good to go. Okay, so then she's getting ready to leave, and so Peter tells her, okay, you did really good today. You did really, really well today. So I'm going to reach out to my clients. I'm going to show them your pictures, and I'm going to ask them if this is, if you are the candidate that they're looking for to take pictures, right? And she was like, okay, all right, fine. Thanks for the opportunity, right? And she leaves. Now, keep in mind that $7,000 that was promised to her, she didn't get that yet. She didn't get anything because it was allegedly pending upon his client deciding if they wanted her to be their girl for the pictures, for the model, whatever, right? So, okay, she goes back home. So she tells her boyfriend everything that's going on. She was like, it was so, it was so fun. It was exciting. It was, relaxing. Everybody was so cool, so chill. So it's like, best foot forward. It sounds like it's a good operation. It sounds like there's nothing going on. It sounds like it's doable. It sounds like it's a legitimate business deal. But one thing that she did not do that I'd like to encourage everybody else to do, right? Because we're in the age of social media where everybody is just at the fingertips of a Google, okay? You guys, if somebody gives you their business card, Google them. Google them, Google their business card, Google any reviews they possibly have on them. Go ahead and do your own search and research to see and to educate yourself on as much information you possibly can to see if they are even legitimate in any way, okay? That's just a little tip for you guys. Make sure that you guys are doing that before you guys are trusting people, okay? That's an opportunity for you to learn something in this, okay? Okay, so anyways, she's talking to her boyfriend and she's telling him, yeah, it was just such an exciting time. And the boyfriend was like, I'm excited for you. Well, you know what? You should definitely go back, take some more photos. You know what? Hey, you can get $7,000. We can really use that, So go back and take some more photos. She was like, okay, well, I have to hear back from Peter. He's going to let me know if his client accepts me as the model, right? And he was like, all right, well, I know you're going to do great. It's going to be a great opportunity for us. So yay, right? So, okay, that night, before the night was even over, before the night was even over, Peter calls Frida. And he was like, I got good news for you. And she was like, okay. And he was like, well, I heard back from my client, and they said, you're a perfect fit. You're going to work. He was like, so why don't you come to the studio tomorrow, say at 3, and we'll get those other photos, right? And she was like, okay, I'll be there, right? So she decides she's anxious, throughout the night. She's excited. Her and her boyfriend go ahead and give themselves some adult love. Okay, they go get some adult love on. They're excited. It's something new. It's exciting. It's a opportunity to make money. So yeah, it's a good look. So they do their adult thing or whatever else, and they go to bed. Now, of course, throughout this time, she's a parent, so she's talking to her daughter and telling her daughter about this and that, and saying, expressing her love for her daughter and to her daughter, right? Okay. So the next time she goes back to this studio, she knocks on the door, She goes up the elevator by herself. Peter doesn't come down to get her this time. She goes up the elevator by herself, and Peter lets her in. Now, when Peter lets her in this time, when he first opens the door, the entire studio is dark. Before, it was lit up. Chloe was in there. You know, there was things set up to prepare to take the pictures, the little umbrellas and all that stuff. But this time, none of that. The studio was completely dark, right? Okay. And when she gets in there, she starts looking around. And the first thing she's doing is looking around and realizing this is not the way it looked last time. And while she's doing that, Peter slams the door shut, and he immediately begins locking it real fast. And then, let me tell you the locks I hate. The locks I hate is like if there's a door and there's a key that's inside of the door and you have to lock it from the inside, so there's no way you can get out of it without a key. I hate locks like that. I don't ever want to be in a place, I don't care where it is. If they have the lock on the inside of the door that you were in and you need a key to get out of it, that is so dangerous. That is so dangerous. I don't like places like that. Me personally, I wouldn't even want to go in a place like that, because not unless I got the key, or unless you never locked that lock, or we could break it open or something, because you can't have that much power over me. I'm just saying. Just in my opinion. You guys light up the comments if you guys know what I mean about those type of locks. Anyways, so she goes in there and he locks the door real fast and put the key in his pocket, right? And then he walks around her and he immediately goes to sit down on like a little bench. Totally different, totally creepy. And she's looking like, what's going on? And she said, do you want me to come back another time? And he just gives her such a sinister look. You can just tell it was all bad and it was too late. Okay? So she's like, so he starts telling her, here's what's gonna happen, right? And he pulls out a big knife. He shows it to her and he sits it right down by him. He says, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna take some photos. And you're gonna wear what I tell you to wear. And you're not gonna leave here until I say that you can leave here. Now, I think initially she was terrified. She was all out terrified. She was standing by the door, and like the realization of reality began to sink in. I think that the feelings that she first got when she first went there, that all began to sink in, and she was terrified because she knew she should have followed her intuition about this guy. She knew when she first seen it, that place was all messed up like that. She just knew she should have followed her intuition. And I think at that point, she was really wishing that she would have just walked away, if she never would have went in there, blah, 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 right? But coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? It's too late. So anyway, she starts crying. She's crying and she's standing there and she's just trembling like a leaf on a tree, right? And she asked him, she said, are you gonna hurt me? Please don't hurt me, right? And he's like, don't make me hurt you, right? So anyways, she asks, at some point she asks if she can go to the bathroom, and he said yes. And before she had went in her phone, in her pocket, and she was dialing numbers. She was trying to dial numbers in her phone, probably like 911 for help or something. And so anyways, he said, yeah, you can go to the bathroom, but leave your phone right there on the table, right? And she was like, I don't understand why I should have to leave my phone. He was like, leave your phone right there on that table, like I said. So she left her phone on the table and she went to the bathroom. And at this point, the bag that she had around her, her purse or whatever else, she just ripped it all open and she's emptying all that stuff out. I don't know necessarily what she was looking for. She could have been looking for a weapon or something else like that, but her phone was out there on the table, okay? So she's just ripping everything through her bag. And when she's ripping everything through her bag, here comes Peter. He walks in the bathroom, right? And he has a brown paper bag in his hand. So in the brown paper bag, he told her, I need you to take off all your clothes, and I need you to put the blue one on, right? And she was like, blue one? She looked at the bag in his hand, and she was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. You guys, in the bag, it was a blue lingerie that he wanted her to put on. And she was like, I can't do this. I can't do this, right? And so he was like, oh, you can, and you will, right? And she said something about she'll call the police or something else like that and tell them where she is or something else like that. And he chopped her in her neck. Chopped her in her neck. And she fell down gasping. She couldn't breathe. She fell down gasping, right? And she's trying to get her air back. And the whole time, he goes and he stands over her head and he said, you listen here. From now on, you're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. You will do nothing else, nothing more, and nothing less, right? And so she's gasping for air, and she realizes that there's just no way for her to get out of this situation. Not the way she would want to. It's just no way. It's not happening. So After he does that, she puts this blue lingerie on, and she comes out and she's holding herself. She's really embarrassed and she's scared and everything else like that. And she's holding herself, and out of nowhere, he comes out with this cup of milk, right? The cup of milk is like this much milk in a cup, right? And it wasn't just milk, guys. Okay, you guys know that. But he came out with a cup of, I want to say, poisonous milk, because the milk was it was tainted or whatever. It had some kind of a drug in the milk. Okay, so he told her, drink this, right? And she, no, I'm not drinking it. I can't drink that. He pulls the knife on her. He says, drink it. She already saw that he was willing to chop her in the throat. So he has no reservations taking more physical actions against her. So against her will, she drinks the milk. And as she's drinking the milk, she knows her head's getting daisy. She's not herself. She's not feeling herself. It's blurry, right? So she drinks the milk or whatever else, and he was like, all of it, drink all of it. So he makes her drink all of the milk, and to the point where she couldn't even hold the glass no more, it just fell down and shattered all over the floor, okay? And then he tells her, now, take the pictures, right? She was holding herself. He was telling her, put your hands down, look this way and that way. Her eyes look completely out of it, you guys. She looks completely out of it. She's not even in the same, whatever else. So her eyes look delusional or whatever else. And after he has her take the pictures, she passes out. She passes out completely unconscious. Now, when Frida wakes up, the start of the worst next 3 days of her life were to begin. So when she woke up, she was handcuffed to a bed. And it was one of those beds, it seems like maybe like a queen size bed, but it has like the bars on it. I'm gonna insert a picture for you guys. It has the bars on it, it's kind of thin or whatever else. She is handcuffed to a bed, and she has that lingerie on. And the guy Peter, he comes over to her and he tells her, you now work for me. You are my property. You're going to do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. And if you don't, there will be dire consequences, right? Now, he forced her into being a sex slave, long story short, right? So for the next 3 days, the guy Peter would then beat, torture, and have a plethora of different strange men come in to the room that Frida was in and sexually assault her. Frida tried to escape. She tried. Anytime she got an opportunity, she tried to run out of a door. She even got away one time before she finally made it away. She got away one time and she ran down the hallway. The scariest part about this is he told her, when she was telling him, my boyfriend's going to come looking for me. People, they know me. They're going to come looking for me. They love me. They care about me. He was like, oh, yeah? You don't even know if you're in the same state. You don't even know if you're in the same city or state. He's like, how do you even know that you're in the same country? Right? And she thought about it, and mentally she was becoming more and more terrified, because you know what she didn't know? You know why? Because when she drank that little magical milk and she passed out, she has no idea where he transported her body to. She has no idea. You guys with me? Light up the comments, okay? So she started thinking about it. She was like, oh crap, I don't know where I'm at. She was like, and she was telling him, I need to see my daughter. My daughter loves me. I need to get back to my daughter. And he said, well, you know what? He would give her false hope and tell her, you do everything I tell you you're going to do, and you're going to make it back to your daughter. And I will send you home. I will return you to your daughter. Okay. So she broke away one time, and she ran down this little apartment. She ran, it was like the roof of a building. She ran on the roof of a building, and she was able to get into like some back stairs that led into some apartments, right? But the apartments that she ran into, one thing that she didn't realize is all those apartments in there belonged to him, right? So she was knocking at every door, let me in, help, let me in. The one apartment that she got into where somebody opened the door was a little girl. It was a little girl about the age of her kid who opened the door, right? And when the girl opened the door, she immediately, ran through the apartment looking for a phone or whatever. She couldn't find a phone, so she saw a laptop. So she started going in the laptop trying to type in, 911, emergency help, all this other stuff. But he was hot on her trail. Peter was hot on her trail, okay? So Peter ended up catching up with her, and he told the little girl, open the door, right? And the little girl, she went straight to the door and started opening it. Now, the thing that Frida didn't realize at the time, as the little girl who opened the door was actually Peter's daughter, okay? So she had no idea that she had broken into Peter's apartment, okay? So Peter's daughter opened the door for her dad, okay? Like what kid wouldn't? She opened the door for her dad, and he immediately went over there and pulled the wires out of the laptop that she was on or whatever else. And those two got into a fight because she hit him with something that was on the table. And so those two were fighting, and then he ended up getting, well, she was on top of him trying to hit him with stuff, but he got her around the throat, and he ended up choking her unconscious or whatever else. So when he choked her unconscious, well, you know what she woke up to besides another whipping? That milk, okay? So she was asking him all kind of questions. Who is that little girl? What is this apart? What is this building? How do you even, blah. She's asking him all these questions every time she comes back to conscious, because the only thing she really wanted to do was get out of there, but she wanted to have as much information as she could when she got out of there to be gone. So all that happened, right? He called her back again, excuse me, and she was in such a state of distress and fear, and it's like he was barely even feeding her for this 3 days, and she was already real thin, guys. She was already real thin, but he was barely even feeding her or giving her water, and she was scared to drink or eat anything he would try to give her anyway, because remember, that milk had that little special poison in it, so likely who would want to eat or drink anything from somebody who they couldn't trust what they're giving them, right? Okay, excuse me. So anyways, longer story short, because boy, this was a story. He had different, the different guys who was coming in there to assault her. One guy, he was so vicious that he came in there, and Frida lied to him, and she told him, please, whatever you do, don't touch me. I have I have AIDS, right? That's what she told him. And he was like, don't worry, baby, I got it too. So the first thing I was so angry watching this, but the first thing that dude did is he put a plastic bag straight over her head and then began to viciously beat her and assault her at the same time. That right there it's heartbreaking, you guys. I'm going to tell you the truth. It is really, really heartbreaking. I'll link the movie or give you guys information on the movie and all that stuff here, but it was really, really heartbreaking. So anyways, after he did that, it was a really brutal assault. She experienced some really brutal assaults, the kind of assaults that nightmares are made of, okay? So, and then after that, gross human being, can't even really call him a human being, after that gross individual was dumping her and he left or whatever else, she was so devastated. She was so hurt. She felt like trash. Who wouldn't feel like trash? She felt like her life wasn't hers or whatever. She's been, targeted, and then they're just one after the other, one after the other. He just sending these people in, right? So anyways, after that particular guy had left, she went to the bathroom and she tried to take herself out. She tried to, believe she tried to hang herself, but she tried to take herself out, but fortunately, because it's good and bad to everything, Peter came in, right as she was passing out or whatever else, he came in and he stopped it. He cut her down and he was like, how dare you be selfish? How dare could you be selfish like that? All the people who are waiting to see you, and here you are trying to take yourself out. Oh my God, you guys, so much anger for that guy, Peter. Long and short of it is, the next guy who Peter sent in would be her last guy. Here's why. Peter, he tried to act like he was being halfway nice to her. He told her, do some makeup, take care of yourself, treat this guy real special because he's a real special guy. And after this guy, I'm going to let you go home to your daughter and to your boyfriend, right? So the next guy who came in was a prominent guy, okay? And he was, anyways, so she did her makeup not in a way that would be appealing. She did her makeup in a way that looks like she had turned demonic, okay? That's what she did. And anyways, long story short, the guy came in. She had this really creepy edge to her. She was being very creepy with him and even dominant, knowing good and well she didn't want to be touched. She was trying to freak him out mentally, right? And so anyways, as the guy thought that he was still going to allow her to service him or whatever else, she politely picked up a needle and stabbed him dead in the chest with it, right? So he backhanded her and knocked her unconscious, and he called the other guy. When the other guy came in there, Peter, that's what he called, he pulled, a gun on Peter. He told Peter, you get on your knees. And he was like, you know what, Peter, I'm gonna tell you like this. You owe because Peter owed this guy some money. They were in bed together on some kind of business deal. He told Peter, the money you owe me, it's now doubled. Either you give it to me tomorrow, or I'm gonna take your daughter and I'm gonna have her replace this broad in the bed. Right? So he threatened Peter that he was going to make his daughter the next girl if he didn't give him that money double. So Peter's vexed now, you guys. Peter hollers fish grease, okay? So the guy, he left, right? And he said, I told you, don't ever let them have any weapons, blah, blah, blah. So the guy, he leaves or whatever else. And Peter, he's so mad at her. He's so mad at her. He's like, you cost me, blah, blah, blah. But he never realized he destroyed her whole life, okay? Anyways, long story short, Peter told another guy to go in and to take her out, to kill her. So she was strapped down to a bed when she came unconscious or whatever else, when she came from out of conscious. And the guy, it's some kind of a needle full of poison that the guy was going to put in her big toe. And he was like, don't worry about it. Soon, baby, you're going to be, in behind some kind of abandoned building, and nobody will even know who you are. Then they'll find your body, right? So she was fighting as best as she could. She, tied down. She was fighting as best as she could, right? So the guy... So after, Frida was fighting as best as she could, but the guy who was going to inject her with the needle, Peter called him, and he told him, wait, hold up, don't inject her. I want to get her myself. So I guess Peter was enraged with her because of, he felt like she put him in such a dire, situation. So Peter was enraged with her, so he said he wanted to stab her himself. So the other guy left. He said, it's against protocol. I'm usually always the one who take him out, right? So anyways, he left. Peter came in. And Peter was talking to her so horrendously. He was telling her, you know what? You're not worth anything. Your daughter's not going to miss you. Your boyfriend's not going to miss you. You're better off gone. The whole world's better without you. You're only trash. And he was like, the real reason why I chose you because I knew that you were an easy win. You were worthless. You were nothing. So he's getting in her head, trying to make her think that she's just the bottom of the barrel, the end of earth. And you know what? He destroyed her life. And he wanted her to go out with thinking that, just the most horrendous thoughts imaginable. Okay. So so he comes up to her and he doesn't realize that she had found a way to wiggle herself out of the handcuffs, right? So she's out of the handcuffs, and that same needle that the guy was going to put in her, she had already went and picked it up. So when Peter walked around her and he was coming to her to look, he was looking for that needle so he can inject her himself. And then he was like, hey, where's the needle? So she jumps up out of bed and she starts fighting with him. She had the needle in her hand, but she didn't get it on him. So instead, it was something on the side of the bed that she started beating him with. And so he got, she got the edge on him this time, and she was able to beat him down where he couldn't get up. I personally said she should have got that needle and finished him. Just my opinion, I'm just saying. But she did not. The needle fell, and she was scared, just trying to get away. So she did. She got away, and she ran away, and she ran out, and luck of the draw, she ran into, guess who? None other than the police. And she was so hysterical and so emotional and so terrified, and there was so much going on, emotions in her, that she was babbling and talking over herself. And the police were like, hey, calm down. What's wrong? What's going on? And Peter and the man and I calm down. One of the officers put their coat around her. They called the ambulance or whatever else, and pretty much the rest is history. So Frida was reunited with her boyfriend and her daughter, but she suffered an immense amount of post-traumatic stress disorder, and her life was never, ever the same. Now, I know this is a very long video, but here's the moral of the story, you guys. One, thank God that Frida survived this, because she is here to give her testimony for a reason. Now, there was a movie made about Frida's life. Actually, there was a couple of movies made about Frida's life. One called Apartment 407, and another one called Selling Isabel. So Apartment 407 and Selling Isabel. I should have some clips up to show you what they look like if you guys want to check them out. My heart, thoughts, and prayers go out to Frida, because actually Frida, the character Isabel, is the main character in the story, but Frida, the person who this really happened to in real life, she is the actress in the story. So if you guys want to see her reenacted herself from how she experienced it, check these movies out. I know that they are older movies, but here's the whole thing. The message is not older. The lesson is not older. So you guys, public service announcement, before you guys go out with strange women and men and women, all the same, because women can be just as dangerous as men. Don't ever think they can't. Look into it. If it does not feel right, if something feels off, listen to your intuition. And on that note, I'm out of here because this has went on long enough. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you are new here, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell anyone and everyone. Your girl here, Planet Ty, is telling you guys a true crime story, and I know that you guys got to be all up into this, because you know what? This was something. Anyways, I love you guys to pieces. If you are returning, you guys already know that. Like I always say, there's always another story to be told. But for now,